John Ritter was, during the late 20th century into the 21st, a star of television, stage productions, and motion pictures, including doing voiceover work for animated films. He was nominated for awards for his stage performances on and off Broadway and for his roles in feature films. On television, he performed in scores of different roles, including on the popular sitcoms The Bob Newhart Show, Rhoda, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and others, in guest roles supporting the main cast. He also appeared in numerous guest roles in television drama and mystery series, including on Dan August, starring Burt Reynolds in 1970, Ritter's first television professional acting role. Yet, he is chiefly remembered today for two sitcom roles. The first is his role as Jack Tripper in the 1970s and 80s sitcom Three's Company, which elevated both Ritter and his co-star Suzanne Summers to stardom. The other is his role as Paul Hennessy, a middle-class father who, with his wife Kate, struggles with the challenges of raising teenagers on 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. Ritter was performing in this role when he died suddenly in 2003, making it one of his most memorable ones. His professional acting career spanned 33 years, during which he demonstrated the ability to perform equally well in comedic and dramatic roles, on television, the big screen, and on the stage. He was a popular guest performer in variety shows and television specials, and among his voiceover roles was his performance as Clifford in Clifford the Big Red Dog. His remarkable diversity is perhaps less remarkable when it is considered that if anyone had ever been born into show business, it was John Ritter. Here's some of his story. Welcome back to Biographics. I'm your host, Eric Malachite, and today's script was provided by Larry Holsworth. So be sure to show them some love as you deploy your likes and do all the things that help keep the eldritch beast that is the YouTube algorithm going. Let's get to it. With the advent of music broadcasting on radio in the 1920s, a new form of American music began to enjoy wider exposure. At first, it was just called cowboy music, the songs of Western cowhands and ranchers, many of them traditional arrangements of songs from the days of the frontier. The style eventually became known as the Western side of what was called country and Western music, the country coming from the bluegrass music of Appalachia. One singer of Western songs in the late 1920s and early 1930s was Woodward Maurice Ritter, a Texan who had moved to Chicago to study law at Northwestern University. Now, Maurice adopted the stage name of Tex Ritter after moving to New York City in 1928, where he landed some minor roles on Broadway and then starred in the Lone Star Rangers on New York's WOR radio. Tex Ritter sang his songs and told tales of the cowboys of the West, often all as part of one act. He became one of the first singing cowboys, a character which was widely popular in the 1930s, and included such performers as Gene Autry, Hopalong Cassidy, Roy Rogers, and a young actor in Hollywood named John Wayne. Tex moved to California in 1936, performing his singing cowboy persona on the screen in several films and contributing to the soundtrack in others. In 1942, Tex was the first artist to record for the newly created Capitol Records, and he released several hits for the label in the 1940s. In 1941, the successful recording and film star married Dorothy Fay, herself a successful actress. They eventually appeared in 4 films together. They also had 2 sons together. Their second son, born in Burbank, California on September 17, 1948, they named Jonathan Southworth Ritter. He had one older brother named Thomas. As the son of established Hollywood and recording stars, John Ritter grew up in a privileged environment. His friends included the children of other stars of his day, some of whom grew up to be entertainment icons themselves. But throughout high school, he didn't show any inclination toward becoming a performer or actor. He attended Hollywood High School, graduating in 1966. While at Hollywood High, he displayed an interest in politics, running for and winning the position of president of the student body during his senior year. After graduating high school, John enrolled at the University of Southern California, where he hoped to prepare for a political career by majoring in psychology. While at USC, Ritter met Nina Foch. Foch was an actor and acting instructor whose credits included appearances in films such as An American in Paris with Gene Kelly, Executive Suite with William Holden and Frederick March, and Spartacus with an all-star cast including Kirk Douglas and Laurence Olivier, among many others. In the 1960s, Nina conducted a class at the School of Cinematic Arts at USC. It was Foch who persuaded John Ritter to attend her class, titled Directing the Actor. Ritter was moved to change his major to theater arts and enrolled in the School of Theater, today known as the School of Dramatic Arts. As part of his studies at USC, Ritter participated in exchange programs with theater classes in Europe, including in the United Kingdom and what was then West Germany. In Britain, he appeared in roles in Shakespearean plays, including As You Like It and The Merchant of Venice. In 1971, he graduated from USC with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, and by then, his professional acting career had already begun. You know what's almost as bad as being typecast? Discovering how much of my personal information was with data brokers. For the last 6 months, our sponsor for today's video, Delete Me, has been acting like a watchful protector, a guardian, if you will, shielding my personal information from unwanted and unscrupulous actors on the internet, like some sort of dark paladin? Come on, what did you think I was gonna say? Since partnering with Delete Me, 19 data brokers have been stopped from using my personal information. Data brokers are companies that snatch up your personal info and sell or rent that information for a nominal price. And it's not just social media websites. They get this information from all over the internet, including government public records. The information these companies had included my name, age, past addresses, family members, marital status, and my wife's name as well. And with Delete Me, I was able to get it removed from these websites. Every one of these data brokers has an opt-out process that you can follow, but if you're like me and you don't have the likely several freaking hours to set aside every day to follow that process for every website that has your information, Delete Me will help you keep your data more secure by doing all of that for you. All you have to do is sign up, follow the instructions in the welcome email, and tell them what information you'd like them to remove. So if you want to have a little more peace of mind when it comes to your private data, you can get 20% off Delete Me US consumer plans when you go to joindeleteme.com/biographics and use promo code biographics at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/biographics, code biographics. In 1970, the world of television was considerably more restricted than it is today. There were 3 major networks in the United States: ABC, NBC, and CBS. Public broadcasting was severely limited in its content and its broadcast range. There were regional syndicated networks such as the Cox Broadcasting System in Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. These networks typically aired locally produced content, reruns of network shows and old movies. Roles for new actors in network productions were difficult to obtain due to the competition from aspiring actors. John Ritter was fortunate in obtaining his first professional network program role, helped by the influence of Nina Foch. Dan August was a 1970 through 1971 police drama aired on CBS, which starred Burt Reynolds in the title role as a police detective in a fictional California town. Norman Fell, who later joined Ritter on Three's Company, played August's partner. A look at some of the guest stars who appeared on just this one program over the course of its single season gives an idea of the level of competition facing young actors. Harrison Ford, Billy D. Williams, Gary Busey, Dabney Coleman, Martin Sheen, and Mickey Rooney are just a few of the many guest actors to appear on Dan August. John Ritter had a guest role in the 12th episode, and it was a start. The following year, Ritter appeared in 2 separate episodes of the popular police drama Hawaii Five-0, portraying 2 different unrelated characters. In 1972, he joined the cast of the drama The Waltons as Reverend Matthew Fordwick. The recurring nature of his role allowed him to seek other work when not featured in an episode of the program. Eventually, he appeared in 18 episodes between 1972 through 1976. In 1975, Ritter appeared in 11 different shows, including the popular Mary Tyler Moore Show, where he portrayed the minister presiding over Tex Baxter's wedding. He also demonstrated comedic flair in an episode of Rhoda, as well as drama with Michael Douglas and Karl Malden on an episode of The Streets of San Francisco. By the mid-1970s, Ritter had demonstrated an ability to perform physical comedy, sarcasm, parody, and considerable dramatic skills across a variety of episodic television. He had held his own, as it were, with several of the heavyweight dramatic and comedic performers of the day, but he was ready to step out on his own and needed the right vehicle for the journey. In the 1970s, American television producers and executives began to look across the Atlantic Ocean for inspiration for some of their sitcoms, a genre which had gotten stale in some respects with repetitive plots and scenarios. Several American hit programs were closely adapted from British shows, including All in the Family, which was based on the highly successful British program Till Death Do Us Part, so they were doing it before The Office. America's popular Sanford and Son was similarly based on Britain's Steptoe and Son. The British sitcom Man About the House, which began running in 1973, drew the attention of American writers and producers. It was popular enough to be made into a feature film in Britain before being adapted for the American market. Man About the House featured two female roommates named Jo and Chrissy, who, after losing a third roommate, convinced a student chef named Robin Tripp to move in with them in their London flat, in an entirely platonic arrangement. To assuage the concerns of their upright landlord, George Roper, about the propriety of the arrangements, they present Robin as being gay. The comedy was built around the various schemes of Robin to make the living arrangements something other than platonic, the girl's resistance to his schemes, Mr. Roper's sexually frustrated wife learning that Robin was emphatically not gay, and various subplots involving rent and the hijinks of friends. It all certainly sounds familiar. Three's Company went through a lengthy development process, selecting and discarding several of the actors, and eventually was produced as an out-and-out farce, its plots based on misunderstandings, its comedy on sexual innuendo and pratfalls. It was an immediate hit, and went on to play on ABC from March 1977 to September 1983. Although John Ritter's performance was well received by critics, and he was popular with fans, the true breakout star from the program was Suzanne Summers. The show went through numerous cast changes over the course of its run, but John Ritter stayed throughout the run of the show, eventually appearing in 174 episodes. His character in the show, Jack Tripper, appeared in two spin-off shows as well, The Ropers in 1979 and in Three's a Crowd, which followed Three's Company in 1983 through 1984. Three's a Crowd was meant to continue Jack's story after opening his own restaurant, but it failed to find an audience and lasted just one season. Three's Company remains in syndication and can usually be found airing on retro television networks, one of the hundreds of options available to viewers today. Given the state of television today, it is hard to believe that the program generated considerable controversy when it initially aired, over the ideas of cohabitation between unwed men and women, oh my, as well as gay rights and other issues. The depiction of a chef as being gay would be considered a stereotype today. Its episodes are all rather tame, perhaps even lame, compared to today's issues and television's depiction of them. After portraying Jack Tripper for 7 years, John Ritter had concerns about becoming stereotyped as a comedic actor. During the run of Three's Company, he did appear in guest appearances on several programs, including with the Muppets and in voiceover roles. But he wanted to ensure his future roles weren't limited to the farcical. In 1984, he formed his own production company, Adam Productions. It was through Adam Productions that Ritter worked with Stephen Bochco and Terry Louise Fisher, who were responsible for several dramatic programs with a humorous bent, to produce Hooperman. Hooperman was ostensibly a police drama, with the title character, San Francisco Inspector Harry Hooperman, played by Ritter, but it focused as much on his personal life as on police work. He was surrounded by a cast of characters, including a woman he hired to manage the dilapidated apartment building he inherited and in which he lived, a gay patrol cop whose female partner is intent on saving him from being gay, and various other eccentric people. The program was well received by critics. Writing in the Los Angeles Times, television writer Bill Kelly called the show the hands-down winner of the best new show of the year. Kelly claimed the new show helped inaugurate a new genre called dramedy, and described it as mixing sitcom comedy with straight drama. The 42 episodes were broadcast over 2 seasons, and though the critics were kind, the ratings were not. Hooperman failed to sustain an audience and was canceled after just 2 seasons. Due in part to the limited number of episodes, it has not been rebroadcast in syndication, though some episodes can be found online and on DVD. Though Hooperman can hardly be called a hit, it did succeed in helping John Ritter avoid being stereotyped as the bumbling pratfall king he portrayed on Three's Company. Using that as criteria, it was a success? Following its cancellation, Ritter returned to seeking guest roles on television and roles in feature films. In 1987, John Ritter appeared alongside James Belushi in a science fiction comedy film titled Real Men. It was a major flop with theatergoers and widely panned by critics. In 1989, he held the lead role in a rom-com film directed by Blake Edwards called Skin Deep. Blake Edwards had enjoyed enormous success with the Pink Panther series and other films, but that success did not carry over into Skin Deep. Reviews were mostly negative, though the film made a small profit at the box office. Problem Child and its sequel Problem Child 2, the main thing that I remember Ritter from, appeared in 1990 and 1991, and once again Ritter's films were panned by critics, which is deservedly so because that child, even as a kid, I could not stand that child actor. The most grating voice I have ever heard from a child actor.
Dad, let's slow this down a minute. Now what is going on here?
The first film, nonetheless, was a box office success which carried over into home video sales. The second film drew even more negative reviews and earned considerably less money, though it did make a profit. Noises Off, released in 1992, had Ritter joining a cast which included Carol Burnett, Michael Caine, Christopher Reeve, Denholm Elliott, and several other noted comedic actors. The film was treated kindly by most critics, but failed to generate much return at the box office, losing money, and demonstrating once again that critics and paying customers are not always on the same page. Finally, in 1996, Billy Bob Thornton brought Ritter into the cast for his psychological drama, Sling Blade, and turned Ritter's luck around. The film was a smash hit, earning rave reviews from critics and audiences alike. In his highly laudatory review of the film, Roger Ebert wrote, "One of the movie's many pleasures is Ritter's performance. Ritter played a gay character who, according to Ebert, accepts his sexuality but seems sort of apologetic about it." Another critic, James Bernardinelli, wrote with a trace of condescension, "John Ritter is surprisingly effective playing against type as an effeminate homosexual." That's a weird way to phrase that. While struggling to find his way in feature films, John Ritter continued to work in television, in guest roles, guest appearances in variety programs and talk shows, and in yet another series. From 1992 to 1995, he appeared in Hearts of Fire, opposite Marky Post. Ritter played John Hartman, an aide to a conservative U.S. senator. Post played a liberal-minded political reporter, Georgie Ann Lottie. Though polar opposites politically, they were naturally attracted to each other personally. You know, it's television. And the sexual tensions served as the basis for much of the plots. Billy Bob Thornton appeared in a supporting role, as did the venerable Ed Asner. At the end of the first season, the lead couple were married and left Washington to settle in a small southern town, where John took over the local newspaper. They took with him John's 2 children from a previous marriage, and the political and sexual tensions faded in favor of more standard sitcom scenarios. The series lasted 3 seasons, with a total of 54 episodes of 30 minutes each. It is seldom seen in reruns, again in part due to the low numbers of available episodes. During the 1990s, Ritter appeared in both dramatic and comedic roles and guest appearances on television. He also appeared in several made-for-television films, the miniseries based on Stephen King's It, and a critically well-received comedy film with Andy Griffith called Gramps. He demonstrated considerable versatility as an actor and comedian. Don Knotts, who had portrayed Mr. Furley, the second landlord on Three's Company, later called Ritter the greatest physical comedian on the planet in a 2002 interview. He received numerous nominations for Emmys and other acting awards, though wins were few despite his strong fan support. In 2000, Ritter opted to return to live theater on an extended run, joining a production of the Neil Simon play The Dinner Party on Broadway at the Music Box Theater. The one-act play begins as a farce before shifting moods and becoming a serious study of marriage and divorce. The play ran for 364 performances, with Ritter being awarded the Theater World Award for his performance. He later made brief appearances in live theater in Los Angeles and other locales, but the run of The Dinner Party was his only extended foray into live theater. John Ritter married his first wife, Nancy Morgan, in 1977. They had 3 children together before divorcing in 1996. 2 of those children, sons Jason and Tyler, followed their father into the acting profession. They also had a daughter named Carly. A second marriage to actress Amy Yazbek produced another daughter, Stella, in 1998. Stella later became a subject of some controversy after transitioning in 2016, changing his name to Noah with the full support of his family, which is just how you do it. Yazbek had worked with Ritter in the 2 Problem Child films, in which they appeared as a married couple. She also appeared alongside Ritter playing his character's wife on The Cosby Show. Yazbek starred as Casey on the sitcom Wings during that program's last 3 seasons in production. Ritter appeared alongside his wife in the season 7 episode Love Aboard. He played Casey's runaway husband, Stuart. Thus, in all their appearances together, the husband and wife team appeared as husband and wife on screen, albeit in marriages of differing strength. John's eldest son, Jason, began his acting career at the age of 10, appearing as Harry Neil Baum, a son of L. Frank Baum, in the television film The Dreamer of Oz, the L. Frank Baum story. He has since performed in numerous roles on television, theater, and in films, gathering considerable acclaim from critics and numerous awards. John's son, Tyler, waited until he was 25 years of age before starting an acting career of his own in 2008. He, too, has since accumulated numerous roles on film and television. John's sons from his first marriage represent the 3rd generation of actors from the Ritter family, beginning with the singing cowboy Tex Ritter in the 1920s. In 2002, John Ritter starred as Paul Hennessy, a married father of 3 in the sitcom 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. The premise of the first season was that of Ritter's character being a stay-at-home father tasked with caring for his 3 children while his wife Kate, portrayed by Katie Seagal, worked as a nurse. During the first season, which ran from September 2002 to May 2003, the series failed to attract a large fanbase, finishing 46th in the Nielsen ratings for the season. Nonetheless, it was renewed for a second season. However, on September 11, 2003, the cast was in rehearsal for the 4th episode of the second season when Ritter was suddenly taken ill. He complained of chest pains, began sweating heavily, and experienced nausea and vomiting. According to some reports, crew members took John to an emergency room. Others claim an ambulance was dispatched. In either case, he was taken to the nearby Providence St. Joseph Medical Center in Burbank, California. In a somewhat sad note, it was the same hospital in which he had been born, and it was just 6 days short of what would have been his 55th birthday. Regardless of how he arrived at the hospital, which occurred at about 6 p.m., Ritter was initially diagnosed as suffering a heart attack. Despite treatment, his condition steadily worsened, and doctors changed their diagnosis to the illness being an aortic dissection. An aortic dissection is a tear in the inner wall of the aorta, the largest blood vessel in the body. Ritter was rushed to emergency surgery but died just before 11 p.m. It was his daughter Stella's 5th birthday. John Ritter was buried following a private funeral in Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills. Following his death, 8 Simple Rules went on a temporary hiatus. When it returned, the death of Ritter's character had been written into the storyline. Despite efforts to retool the show, including the introduction of new characters played by Suzanne Pleshette and James Garner, it failed to find an audience. The show was canceled at the end of the 3rd season. As news spread of Ritter's death, Richard Klein, who played Jack Tripper's friend Larry on Three's Company, said of Ritter, "Friend, comedy genius, all-around good guy, great father." Bob Myman, who was Ritter's partner in his production company, said he just remained the same guy, sweet, kind, generous, interested in anybody. Henry Winkler, Ritter's longtime friend and colleague, told an interviewer he was extraordinary in every aspect of his life, especially as a father. Winkler had starred with Ritter on Broadway in The Dinner Party, the author of which, Neil Simon, said of Ritter, "He was more than a comic. He was a real actor with a genius for comedy." Winkler had also starred with Ritter in other projects, including the 1993 television film The Only Way Out. Over the course of his career of more than 30 years, Ritter appeared in more than 50 stage productions, 25 television films, numerous feature films, scores of guest appearances, and starred in several sitcoms, including Hearts of Fire, The Dramedy Hooperman, 8 Simple Rules, and others. But his chief legacy remains his longtime role as Bachelor on the Make, Jack Tripper on Three's Company. One of John Ritter's final roles was a voiceover for Clifford the Big Red Dog for the original animated series which aired on PBS in the United States. He provided the voice for the main character for all 65 original episodes. Upon Ritter's death, PBS released a statement, which read in part, "For the past 4 years, we have known and loved John Ritter as the voice of Clifford the Big Red Dog. We came to know him not only as a man with huge talent, but also as the very embodiment of Clifford's generous spirit and unconditional love." John Ritter was nominated for the Primetime Emmy Award for Best Lead Actor in a Comedy 6 times, yet won only once in 1984 for Three's Company. He won the corresponding award at the Golden Globes the same year. He also won a People's Choice Award for Best Male Performer in a new TV program in 1988 for Hooperman. He never received an Academy Award nomination for his work in feature films. He was nominated for a Screen Actors Guild Award for his work in Sling Blade, a nomination shared by the entire cast of the film. The award was given to the cast of The Birdcage, which is well-deserved. That's a great frickin' movie. In 1983, while Three's Company was still a popular program, he was awarded a star on the Walk of Fame, an honor he shared with his father, Tex Ritter. Due to the magic of streaming, YouTube, and DVD, nearly all of his work on television and film can be found today, yet Three's Company remains where he is most likely to be seen on television. It's too bad in a way because his body of work offers so much more, in so many different styles and genres. Yet he seems destined to be the stereotype he wanted so badly to avoid. And thanks again to Delete Me for sponsoring this video. Remember to follow the link in the description and pinned comment to get 20% off your subscription. It's a small price to pay to help keep your private data safe from bad actors. I hope you learned something today, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to deploy your likes, comment a historical figure we haven't covered yet, subscribe and ring that bell, and share this video with someone who loves learning about history's most important people. I'm Eric Malachite, and we'll see you next time.